In the US market, sedans aren't necessarily the most popular, as Americans prefer buying crossovers and larger vehicles. But that could be all about to change. And as history has shown us, when gas prices rise, people tend to downsize. And that's why I am featuring today the 2022 Nissan Altima SR Midnight Edition. Now within this segment, what you are going to find are sedans that are very spacious for the interior, still overall practical, and best of all, fuel efficient. Now when it comes to the Nissan Altima and when it matches up against its rivals, I do think that it's often overlooked and very underrated because buyers tend to look at the Toyota Camry and the Honda Accord. But for this particular generation, what Nissan has done to this car is pretty remarkable because from the exterior, it's aged very gracefully, but also the interior is very nice and upscale for its price point. And best of all, if you are looking to downsize or you're just looking to buy a sedan, the Nissan Altima is going to give you quite a bit. And that's why I am here. We're going to take a deep dive into the Nissan Altima, see how it compares to other vehicles in this market, and also see why, if you're looking at buying a car at around $30,000, then maybe taking a look at the Nissan Altima might be a great decision. Now before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Boch Nissan in Norwood, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Nissan inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. The sedan segment, regardless of size and class, has been dominated by a handful of vehicles, most notably in this price range, the Honda Accord and Toyota Camry. With American brands leaving this market to fully commit to crossovers, that's left the door open for manufacturers to fill a void. And that's exactly what Nissan did back in 2018 with the current generation Altima. Not only did this mid-size sedan receive the attention and refresh it deserved, but Nissan went one step further by studying the market and realizing that to be appealing in the 21st century, they had to offer all-wheel drive. Now in 2022, the Altima once again has an opportunity to captivate consumers by being economical and practical, while at the same time giving rivals a run for their money. Starting off with pricing, our model for this review is an SR Midnight Edition, coming in at $28,500. Being the sportier mid-level trim in the lineup, this Altima will have a lower profile look, and that's taken one step further with the super black exterior paint color that does hide some of the cosmetic enhancements that sets this car apart. Getting into the road presence in a minute, the reason sedans like the Altima still have a place in the current automotive market and is worth taking a look at if you want to downsize from a crossover is because of the dimensions. Compared to the Sentra, the Altima is 10 inches longer and an inch wider, giving you more interior space and cargo room to ease your transition back to a car. While you may not have the same ground clearance that a Rogue can give you, the Altima is still going to be practical enough to be your daily driver. If you're familiar with Nissan, you know that chrome accents are part of their signature look. But if that doesn't appeal to your tastes, the Midnight Edition blacks out key aesthetics like the V-Motion front grille, but also the trim around the top portion of the window frames. Setting this model apart from the standard Altima SR is the LED fog lights. They'll provide better illumination on dimly lit streets. And with the standard LED headlights, the sedan still appears to be modern and relevant, despite this generation not experiencing a substantial mid-cycle refresh. While looks are always subjective, the Altima is one of few cars in this market that's aged quite well, and does have a striking road presence that some rivals are beginning to lose with their older front fascias. Moving over to the side profile, the Midnight Edition will come equipped with 19-inch gloss black wheels. And for those wondering if ride quality is affected by the larger tire size and sports tune suspension for the SR, honestly, you'll find that the Altima handles the bumps quite well. And for a car hovering around $30,000, it feels quite composed on the road. You'll have gloss black side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, the subtle deck lid spoiler and dual exhaust outlets adds a sporty vibe to this sedan, while the somewhat sportback C-pillars gives you the perception that it's a bit more practical than conventional cars. Surprising, but not uncommon, the taillights are incandescent, which hopefully for a refresh we see a full LED setup make its way onto this sedan in the near future, as from this angle the Altima may be showing its age. Under the hood, the 2022 Nissan Altima SR is powered by a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, producing 182 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque if you opt for front-wheel drive, and this powertrain will be paired with the CVT. The question that comes up when discussing the Altima is whether you should upgrade to the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder for the better performance. But if you're primarily focused on just finding a comfortable daily commuter, you're going to notice that the 2.5 provides just enough where you'll not regret passing up on the turbo. When it comes to the drivetrain, front-wheel drive does come standard, but optional since this generation first hit showrooms last decade, you can get all-wheel drive to tackle winter road conditions. For fuel economy, you're looking at right around 27 miles per gallon in the city, and 37 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, you're greeted by Nissan zero-gravity seats with sports cloth inserts for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side being 8-way power adjustable. For a mid-tier trim, comfort and support is impressive, as the materials Nissan used will enhance your driving experience, especially on longer road trips. Bolstering will keep you in place to complement the Altima SR's sportier nature, but going against the flow in this segment at this price point is the center console design and the soft touch materials. It would be a stretch to call the cabin premium, but it's certainly a standout amongst rivals. In front of you, between the analog gauges, will be a digital display that we see from most vehicles from Nissan, with the resolution and quality being on par and in some cases better than what you'll normally experience in the midsize sedan segment. Taking a look at the infotainment system, the SR Midnight Edition will be equipped with a larger 8-inch touchscreen, with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. From a user-friendliness and interactive standpoint, this head unit is easy to adapt to, and the menus are cleanly laid out. With the physical dials and quick access buttons, this is a departure from the larger buttonless user interface found in the Subaru Legacy, which will likely make Nissan's layout more appealing for buyers not looking for the most tech-filled cabin. Resolution and responsiveness-wise, it's on par with what we typically see from other sedans like the Toyota Camry. You'll have a rear backup camera with trajectory to go along with rear automatic braking and rear cross-traffic alert. Below, you'll find the buttons and dials for the climate control settings, AC, and 2-level heated seats. And beneath that, you'll have a small cubby for a smartphone, and there'll also be a USB-C and USB input. For the center storage compartment, there'll be enough room for smaller items. And rounding out the front seating area, above will be a power moonroof to let in some natural light to the interior. Now for passengers in the back, we're going to start off on the passenger side, and believe it or not, this seat is adjusted all the way back and somewhat on a recline, and I have a good amount of legroom to work with here. I think that's one of the reasons why they call these cars family sedans, because it's still accommodating for passengers in the second row. You can easily fit kids back here, and I do think that average-sized adults should be fine. Now when it comes to headroom, of course, that's where I think you might want to go with a Nissan Rogue, but if you are looking to downsize from your crossover and you want something a little more fuel efficient, but you don't want to sacrifice the practicality, then the Altima has to be on your list of considerations because of its size. It's still pretty comfortable and spacious. You're not going to be complaining at all, whether you're up front or in the second row. The only main issue is going to be that center seat, which we're going to find out. Now, for most cars in this particular market, you're just not going to be able to fit a third person back here, and I don't think the Nissan Altima is any different, because you do have an aggressive center hump. And what that does is it takes away from legroom. So I think shoulder room isn't necessarily that bad. You could try squeezing in a third person on a rare occasion and on shorter drives. But on a daily basis, I think everyone is going to feel a bit more claustrophobic when it comes to that shoulder room, which is a bit of a shame, because I do think that if that center hump was gone, we could easily fit 3 people back here. But as we see across the board for this particular market and for sedans of this size, I think that if you are looking to try fitting a third person, you're still going to have to go with a crossover. And then on the driver's side, I adjusted the seat to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have plenty of legroom to work with here. So as I've been talking about with this car, if you are looking to downsize, you don't need a crossover, you don't need all that space in the second row or even the rear cargo area, the Altima is a great option just because you're still going to have a good amount of interior room. You're not going to be complaining about legroom if you are more of an average size adult. And then also, if you have no plans of fitting a third person in the center, I think everyone in this car is going to be nice and comfortable. Also back here, you will have a USB-C and USB input. Now, we do not have 2 rear air vents, which is not much of a surprise for a car in this market. We just don't really see that at around $30,000. And rounding out the rear seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now, coming around to the back, you're going to receive right around 15.4 cubic feet of rear cargo space, which is on par with a lot of sedans of this size and in its segment. Best of all, I was able to fit all my camera gear and then some. If I wanted to go to the grocery store after, I'd be able to do all my shopping and not even need to lower the second row seats, which is great to see. I do think that you'll be able to fit probably 2 to 3, possibly a 4th bag of luggage if you are going on a road trip with the family. Now, I understand that this is not the perfect replacement for a crossover, but if you are looking to downsize and you don't have a big family and it's just you and possibly a significant other, I think this is still a perfect daily driver. Then with the second row seats full, you're looking at right around 43 cubic feet of room. So once again, it's still a great all-around practical car where it is efficient, it does provide a good amount of interior space, and the cargo room is pretty great for a sedan in 2022. So as I said before, I understand that going with a Nissan Altima over a Nissan Rogue might hurt when it comes to the practicality, but if you are just looking for fuel efficiency, this might be the way to go. So we are now behind the wheel of the 2022 Nissan Altima SR Midnight Edition, doing a very quick spin around the block to get a good idea of what this car has to offer. And really what stands out to me with the Altima and for a mid-level trim is just how comfortable it is to drive, not only when it comes to the suspension, but also even the seats as well. They're very plush for this price range compared to the Toyota Camry XSE I reviewed last year, but also even the Subaru Legacy as well. This feels really upscale. Now, what you are going to notice with the SR is that you do have soft touch materials on the dashboard and also the center console and center armrest, giving you more of an upscale experience for the price point. But then getting into the driving experience, now a lot of you are going to say, well, maybe I should get the turbo, even though it's going to cost me a bit more. But I'm going to tell you this, that with the 2.5 and the CVT, you get a decent amount of performance where you're not begging for more power, especially on the highway. You can get on the highway pretty quickly and safely. But also, with this having a CVT, usually I'm sitting there complaining, oh, the droning is bad, or it's just not that fun and enjoyable. But the CVT does mimic the gear shifts, where you're not going to be waiting for it to kick into its gear or really give you that traditional automatic feel. It actually feels very well refined in here. And that's one thing that I think Nissan has done an amazing job with this generation, where not only does it look great from the outside, but the driving experience and the cabin and the driving environment you have here to work with is pretty fantastic compared to other cars in this market. Now, of course, a lot of people are going to go with the Toyota Camry and Honda Accord, but if you're looking for something that's a little different, that is a different experience, that is going against the flow, then the Altima is a great alternative. Because to me, when it comes to the interior layout, with the technology that we have here, the infotainment system, it's more user-friendly, but also it is a bit more upscale than a lot of vehicles that we see in this price range, like the Toyota Camry. Not a big fan of the Camry interior or the infotainment system. However, this is very easy to use while you're driving, quick access buttons underneath the screen, and also you have dials for the volume and tuning. Also, of course, nice cleanly laid out design for the dashboard. And to me, it's just very user-friendly compared to a Subaru Legacy with the big screen. I know a lot of you complain about that, where it's just, since there's a lack of physical buttons, it's just not that intuitive. Whereas the Altima gives you more of that old school feel. And I think you guys are definitely gonna like that. So going on this winding back road, let's see how it handles. And you do feel the body roll, even though the SR does have a sports tune suspension. What I do like though is that the steering is decently weighted. So it does give you some feedback in the corners, and you can have some fun. It's very maneuverable. And to me, I think that it gives you just enough where you're not going to get bored of the driving experience. Now you're probably wondering as to why the camera is not facing me today, and that is because earlier in the day I featured the Nissan Kicks, which you guys have probably seen that review already, and I didn't bring an extra battery. So rather than looking at my ugly face, you can focus on the driving experience and join me on this test drive. Now when it comes to the front vision, you have plenty of it. A-pillars are not very aggressive at all. And in typical Nissan fashion, you do have the blind spot detector on the A-pillar itself. Now, side mirrors, pretty decently sized. You can see what's in your blind spots. And then looking out back, you have a good amount of rear vision. So you have a lot of visibility in this car. So after this quick test drive, what are my final impressions for this sedan? Well, let's first start off with the power. I know a lot of you are going to be questioning, should I go with the turbo, or is the CVT gonna be annoying? And what I'm gonna say here right now is that Nissan's done an amazing job with their CVTs, where it does mimic gear shifts and it feels refined. This car, from a holistic standpoint, is pretty comfortable. It's smooth to drive, and with the 2.5 liter, it gives you a good amount of horsepower. Also, I love the interior as well. You're getting a good amount of technology and features to work with. And if you are on a budget, don't feel like you're missing out where you didn't go with the Platinum, or you didn't go with the all-wheel drive, or you didn't go with the turbo. I think what the Midnight Edition is giving you is really stunning looks from the exterior, but also I think with these seats as well, very comfortable ride. Even though you have a sports tune suspension, you don't really notice it. And this car is just, I think, a great daily commuter. So if you are on a stricter budget, you're looking at a car around $30,000, I think the Nissan Altima SR is certainly worth taking a look at. So in closing, after spending a good amount of time with the 2022 Nissan Altima SR Midnight Edition, what do I have to say about this sedan? Well, when you're looking at buying a car at around $30,000, I think the Altima is giving you quite a bit. Maybe not necessarily when it comes to technology and features, although this seems pretty par for the course. Last year I featured a Camry XSE in the same price range, and I gotta be honest, when it comes to the interior, I think the Altima is a step ahead, especially with the soft touch materials on the dashboard, the center console, center armrest, and also these seats. These seats are a standout. In fact, I think they're the highlight of this car because they're so comfortable, they're plush, and they give you a good amount of support. It's like sitting on a cloud. Now, they're not aggressively bolstered, so you don't expect to really push this car in the corners and you're gonna be really nice and snug. It's not gonna give you that sensation. But on a longer drive, on a weekday commute, it's very comfortable. Then when it comes to technology, I actually prefer this infotainment system over the one in the Toyota Camry XSE I reviewed last year. I think it's higher quality, the resolution is better, and also I like where the button layout is with the volume and tuning knobs. And then of course with the digital gauge cluster, it's what you expect for a lot of Nissans in this price range and really across the board for the brand. So I definitely like that. Of course, having a full digital gauge cluster would be nice in the future, specifically for this trim, because I think this trim is giving you a lot of value. Also, of course, I love the fact that we actually have a nice center console. It makes it feel as though the dashboard is wrapping around you and you feel really secure in this car. And that's one thing that really is a nice takeaway from today and after experiencing it for about 20 minutes on the road. Then when it comes to the driving dynamics, of course, I like the steering. I think the steering is nicely weighted, a bit more aggressive than what we see from other vehicles in this market. And then also when it comes to that CVT, I think a lot of people do pass up the Altima because it does have that CVT. But in urban and suburban driving, I don't think you're going to need to worry about that. I don't think you're going to notice it that much because it does mimic the gear shifts quite well. Also, you do the paddle shifters as well. But I didn't feel inspired enough to do that or really feel the need that I had to when it comes to CVTs, because usually when I drive a CVT, I tend to engage on those paddle shifters just because I don't want to hear that droning. But because the CVT for Nissan tends to mimic those gear shifts quite well and also naturally, I felt as though I didn't need to use the paddle shifters today. But I really got to be honest though, I think this car is still providing quite a bit. And again, it is 2022 with the gas prices starting to increase. Maybe it's time to start considering a sedan. And that's why I think the Altima at its price point, even if you're not looking at an SR, maybe you just want to look at an SV, I think when you're looking at a price range around $25,000 to $30,000, I think you're receiving quite a bit. And I think you're getting a fantastic car. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.